Guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Amanda Shee. I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist, and today I want to talk about some advice I have for those of you that are interested in a career in medicine. So this video is really for anyone who is interested in any of the careers in medicine, though I think that it's important for our pre-meds and for our students in general that are exploring careers in medicine to yield this advice early on, because I think that it's such a long career, it's such a long road to any medical job for the most part, that it's important to maintain these characteristics and maintain the perspective that's needed in order to be successful and to be able to have a really long-term career in medicine. So first of all, number one, the most important thing is that you really have to love medicine. You have to love the job, the career path that you've taken. Recognize that there's a lot of different ways to be in medicine. It's not always at the bedside for clinical medicine, but there's other ways to be able to participate in care of patients or be able to make a positive impact on patients in the medical field. So it's not always a traditional bedside medicine type thing, but you have to really love what medicine means to you. This to me means that you shouldn't be giving into peer pressure. So I know that there are individuals that have many family members that are already in medicine, and they may feel a little bit pressured by their family members to pursue the same career or to maintain a legacy or to be able to inherit a practice. And that's oftentimes a recipe for disaster, because pursuing a career in medicine for someone else oftentimes does not go very well. So if you don't really love it, then the long hours and the tough conversations with patients and the tough scenarios are so much harder to deal with if it's not something that you yourself are interested in. At the end of the day, having someone else, living someone else's dream won't get you out of bed early in the morning. So I had many 4 a.m. mornings during my surgery rotations. I, as an attending, continue to have 4 a.m. mornings. I still do night shifts. And so there's a lot of really tough times on your body and tough situations you encounter. And it's so important to really want to be there and to be passionate about it in order to keep you going day to day. Something that I only recently have come to acknowledge or admit is that I find medicine and the practice of medicine that I do to be more of a passion, almost like to the level of a hobby rather than a profession or a job. So I don't consider the work that I do a job that I go for X number of hours or a shift that I have to be there. I consider it something that I really enjoy exploring and learning about and constantly building on my knowledge base of. So you could say that my practice of medicine is really a passion, and actually this came through when I recently went on a cruise, and I realized that I really wanted to log into our electronic medical record because I wanted to be able to keep up with things and look at patient charts and be able to follow up on different things that had come up. And so this wasn't something that I felt was a failure of my vacation. I felt that it was a reflection of the fact that I really am invested in the work that I do, and I really do love it. The second thing that I think is really important for you in the career of medicine is to maintain humanity. So it's a long road, like I said earlier, to any of the medical professions in various ways, either clinical or interactions with different team members or interactions with patients or just difficult situations in general. Being able to witness individuals at their most vulnerable can be really heavy. And so it's important to remember that the people that you're working with and the patients that you're caring for, they themselves are humans. They have family members, they have loved ones, they have passions, they have personalities, they are people. And so it is so important to remember that the patient in room 2 with cancer is not just a patient in room 2 with cancer. That is someone who has a life outside of the hospital or has a life outside of the clinical setting in which you're meeting them. The other piece too is that I think sometimes we forget that other individuals in the team are also human. So the support staff that are there, any of the subspecialties that you're calling for consults or just interacting with different team members in the hospital, all of these people are humans. And so we should have the human decency to be able to maintain our humanity even when you're on your 28th hour. And yes, I have done 28-hour calls. So I have been in that situation where I was in my 28th hour. And while I would say that I was no angel by any means, I can't say that I was the most chipper or fun to be around, but I think that it's important to constantly remind yourself of the great privilege that you have to be in that position, even in the 28th hour. Kind of in line with the humanity piece is also the humility piece. At the end of the day, medicine is so expansive. There's so much to learn. There's so much that we will never learn. There's so much that exists out in the world that we are going to learn. And so it's really important to maintain this balance between confidence and humility. So I would say that that's something that is constantly a struggle. I think that when I was a trainee, I felt like it was easier to fall back on this idea of, oh, I'm just a resident, or oh, I'm just a student. But now that I'm an attending, I'm kind of in this interesting balance of there are certainly things that I feel very confident about when I encounter it, and I know exactly how to manage it. I know exactly what I want to be doing in order to treat a patient. But there are certainly times where I will lean upon asking for help. I have no shame in asking my expert friends for their opinions about various things, and to be able to just get every patient that I care for the best possible care by ensuring there's a lot of different sets of eyes that have different experiences and different expertise that can contribute to figuring out a unifying diagnosis or figure out the next steps to be able to get someone better. So humility is my number 3 item that is advice for a career in medicine. The number 4 thing that I think is really important to maintain throughout the entire journey, as well as during the time when you're practicing medicine, is perspective. So this kind of falls within the humanity and humility pieces of it. But one of the things I always remind myself when I have a tough day and I'm walking out of the hospital is I look back at the hospital and I ask myself, or remind myself, that there's a lot of patients that are still there that aren't able to walk outside and be able to breathe the fresh air. Even if it's raining, the reality is that is in itself an experience that someone in the hospital may actually wish that they could have that experience of. So every time I walk out of the hospital, I think of how grateful I am that I have the ability to walk, to ambulate, to be able to actually leave the hospital, but also to be able to feel the wind, feel the cool air or the hot air or whatever it is, be able to move towards a home, be able to sleep in my own bed. These are all things that I am always reminding myself when I leave work, and especially during a really tough shift, I try to remind myself and hold on to those moments where I have to say that I have to remind myself that I am lucky to have these types of experiences that some of my patients may not be able to have. Earlier, I said that on my cruise recently, I really wanted to log into the medical record because I'm passionate about medicine, but I think it's also a balance to remember that there are gonna be times where you actually need a break. So these last couple months, I actually had 7 days in the ICU, and I did critical care fellowship because I enjoy working in the critical care setting. I enjoy working as an intensivist, and it's a pleasure and it's something that I'm really grateful to be able to do. But at the same time, I also recognize that when I am physically in the hospital for at least 75 to 80 hours for the week, and I only get one day off after, that my body is exhausted and my brain is exhausted. One of the things about the ICU is that the good part is that by being there for 7 days in a row, you get continuity, so you get to see patients get better, you get to know the family members, you get to know the patients better. It allows for you to be able to build upon the care that you're providing for each of your patients. But the flip side of that is that it does take a toll on you cognitively, emotionally, and physically. During my last 2 weeks that I had in the ICU, I wasn't able to get too many gym sessions in. I definitely wasn't able to spend time with loved ones and family and friends and other people that I wanted to be able to see, to be able to refill my cup, because during that week, I'm just 100% in the zone of caring for my patients, and just kind of like, it's a lot at the end of the day. So I find that after a day in the unit, I go home and I just want to go to bed and then restart the next day. So for me, I would say that after my 7 days in the ICU, I have to give myself the permission to actually take a break the next day, to not open my email, to not respond to things related to patients, to not check up on all of them. Though admittedly, someone that's an intensivist or people that go into ICU tend to want to see what happened to patients. So I am guilty of always checking in to see what had happened to some of my patients in the unit. But that aside, I would say that that's another important thing to consider when you're going into medicine, is recognizing which things are depleting you to be able to know when you need to take a break. Now, a break can be like a day. That doesn't mean that you have to be gone for an entire week and you have to completely check out of your work. You have to figure out for yourself what is that appropriate balance for you. But I can tell you for myself that after my 7 days in the unit, I absolutely need a full day off, and I need to be able to give myself permission for that, because it's definitely a culture in medicine that you just keep grinding and you keep pushing forward even when you're supposed to be off. And I don't think that that's necessarily the right approach either. So trying to figure out that right balance is an ongoing challenge, I think, for most medical professionals, but I think I'm finally getting to a point where I'm realizing where there are signs that come up of I need to take a break, and this is how the break is gonna look like. The last thing I wanted to go over was I went to a resident regional conference last weekend, and there was a panel of CEOs and medical administration leaders that are anesthesiologists, and one of the themes that I took away from that panel was about how important it is to be courageous in medicine. So this is something that I didn't really think about, but it's this idea of doing the right thing. And I think that one of the biggest challenges now in modern medicine and in just the modern world is that there's so much noise on the internet and through social media and through different channels. There's so many people always talking, having an opinion, ensuring that their opinion is out in the public. And there are also a lot of people that want to hide behind the anonymity of the internet and say really, really harsh and mean things to others. And that's unfortunate, because I think that it makes it hard sometimes to be courageous. So one thing that I would say about why I keep taking these breaks with social media is that it is hard to see some of the negative feedback and comments and some of the attacks that appear on my YouTube channel. And so that becomes hard to kind of move forward through. But at the same time, at this conference over the weekend, encountered a couple of medical students who were so excited to come up to me and ask me questions. And it reminded me that some of you guys are actually watching these videos and feeling like you're either connecting with me or that something resonates with you and is inspiring you to be able to pursue a career that can be fulfilling for you too. So here I am, I'm trying to be a little courageous, but I'm also advising that that's something that you should try to maintain throughout your career is to be courageous, to do the right thing. So sometimes in the clinical setting, that can look like an unpopular decision or something that you have a sense is probably the right thing to do. And it may not be the most conventional, or it may not be the thing that everyone else thinks is the right direction, but sometimes it's either a clinical clue or a sense or just your continuity with a patient that actually your own decision making and your own plan for the patient might actually be the right direction. So that all being said, continue to be courageous. So those were my pieces of advice for those of you that are looking to pursue a career in medicine, hoping to, in the midst of a career in medicine or finishing up your training or wherever stage you're in. I think that these pieces of advice are so important to maintain throughout your career. So thank you so much for watching my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like this material and you want me to keep coming back to record future things, and subscribe to my channel if you want to get updated on future videos. I'll see you guys next time.